Alrighty. I think I'm being told that we're live. Neat. Welcome everybody, I hope you're doing well. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, and welcome to Secret of Mana, where today we're going to be playing this game with two controllers. Well, most of the time, but initially it will just be one. So, if you're curious how that two-controller thing works, because it might be a bit unusual, I guess. Well, there is an open incentive that anytime it gets met, you will get the opportunity to, well, see what I might be doing with two controllers. But until then, welcome to Secret of Mana. Let's begin. Let's go just with no kid hungry and just start, I would suggest. And we're gonna start in 3, 2, 1, let's move. So, welcome. Anybody who might not be familiar with the game itself, this is Secret of Mana, a Super Nintendo action RPG from quite a while ago, to say the least. It is pretty old by now. And, well, it is fondly remembered by many people because for a lot of, especially also European, as in me specifically, I guess, it was the first RPG I've ever played. And the fact that you can play this game with up to 3 people at the same time to go on a grand adventure was quite marvelous, I dare to say. So, I kind of like this game a lot, let's put it that way. Either way, this run is going to be done. Basically, the full category name is 1 player, 2 controller, no arbitrary script execution. And the reason why it is a bit more of a complicated category name is quite simply because there is a credits warp that you can execute in under 10 minutes. If you are good at it anyways, I'm not. And, well, that specific glitch is banned in this category, however everything else is allowed, so this is not a glitchless run. So first of all, you see our little protagonist here fall off a log in a place where the kids should not play, and, well, fall damage, don't worry about it, that is just perfectly normal in this universe, because you will later see there's a method of travel that is just perfectly normal, apparently, that you're flying pretty high through the air, so don't worry about that. Either way, the story begins here with our little hero finding a sword in the woods that, well, he needs something in order to hack his way through the bushes in order to get back home to Poto's village. So he finds his sword, he picks it up, and suddenly he sees ghosts. I'm not going to be able to keep track of the plot, but it is kind of more or less your standard hero finds a sword story, he is the chosen one, and then has to slay the great evil. Along the way, we are supposed to seal 8 mana seeds, find some companions and mana spirits along the way that gives us various spells, and just kind of travel the world. That is the basic premise of this. Alrighty, and here we begin. At the bottom you see a little icon with the boy's face, that is which character that is, as you might expect. Then in the top right of that portrait is a little 1, that means that is the controller 1 that is currently selected here. Then the 50 is how much HP we have out of how much, and the little bar below that is actually our charge and stamina bar. So, unless I attack with 100% stamina, I'm actually not gonna deal a whole lot of damage, especially early on. But these little rabbits have exactly 20 HP, and 56% charge is actually just sufficient. So, in short, there is the concept of high damage rolls and low damage rolls. Currently, high damage rolls are 18, 14 is the low damage roll equivalent. I'm defeating a few enemies here, but not too many, in order to, well, level up my weapon. You do get normal stat level ups in this game too, whoops, as well as the weapon level ups. The standard stats level up I actually don't really care much about. The most important part is for me to get the weapons to level 1, more specifically this one here. So the concept of leveling up your character, you just get more HP, more stats, more strength, the standard stuff. However, the weapon is the interesting part here. When I hold down the B button in order to attack, I can charge up my weapon. Once I reach sword level 1, I can charge up, well, up to level 1. And each charge level gives you 50% damage bonus, which we will be using. However, there is a second component to this that we will be abusing because it's a little bit glitchy. In fact, Seeker of Mana has a lot of little exploits, minor and major glitches that you can use to various effects. However, it actually is really fascinating how some of these glitches just kind of really work well together. Alrighty, and here we go. This is the first boss. You actually cannot lose to this guy. As soon as you reach 0 HP, you basically get automatically revived, so it's not that big of a deal. Curiously enough, it actually is still not a particularly easy fight. This guy here can probably knock out a new player once or twice, so it's kind of nice that you get healed up without any trouble. So you may have heard that little high-pitched sound as the mantis ant exploded. That means I defeated enough enemies that my sword is now at level 1, so I can charge it up. I had some backup enemies in the next section in case I didn't quite get enough in the previous section for this to happen, but here we are. Alrighty, and we have defeated the first boss. Pretty straightforward, right? There is going to be a few sections where defeating bosses is going to be relatively easy, but in Seeker of Mana, most things that usually work still can go somewhat wrong. I will be making a few safety saves here because, well, especially in the early game when you have only one character, you have little to no invulnerability frames whenever you get hit, so you could actually, in theory, just get comboed to death by various enemies. So we kind of want to try and avoid that, but just in case it happens, we have some save files lined up. Alrighty, and the short version is, we pulled the sword out of the stone, which apparently was protecting the village, and now monsters are everywhere and they are throwing us out of the village. The guy just defeated the big mantis ant monster. Not sure about that logic, but hey, it's okay. Either way, we are going to go on our grand adventure. The night earlier told us that we should visit the Water Palace, where we meet the sage Luca, who is going to instruct us about our quest to complete a journey for stealing the 8 mana seeds to power up the sword, because even though this is the sword of the chosen ones, it is actually really weak right now. If you talk to these guards here, you will actually get kidnapped by goblins after the cutscene. Frequently actually get the question of, wait, how did you not get kidnapped by the goblins? Well, it's simple, you just don't talk to the guards over there, so you don't get kidnapped by the goblins. Saves us a bit of time, but just not doing something. Very convenient in speedruns. I also sidestep these stairs here. So the way running works in Seeker of Mana is you hold down the A button, and then your character starts running. Running is about 50% faster than regular walking. And the interesting thing about it is, you cannot change direction once you start running. It's like a Link to the Past in that a little bit. So you need to release your run button. However, you can also only start running as soon as you have 100% stamina. It's a bit different in the remake in case you have played that one, but you have to have 100% stamina in order to be able to start running. So it's kind of like a little mini game of try to find the best running/dash lines in order to optimally navigate your way through the game. On top of that, running isn't just for going faster, but also a valuable tool to manipulate your AI-controlled character, but is later on in the game. You will see what I mean. But Seeker of Mana is kind of notorious a little bit for having your AI-controlled character partner stuck, and you cannot run away because they get hit by enemies and they get stuck behind obstacles, all kinds of sorts of things. To me personally, it's actually kind of fun to try and master that little thing about the game. Alrighty, either way, Luca here gives us a spear, which is gonna be our second weapon. I will also want to get this up to level 1, so I will defeat 11 enemies with this as well. Then here we also got the save. After saving, I press start, select L and R in order to do a soft reset. This skips about 2 dialogue boxes, and it also brings us to the entrance of the room. So it's basically just slightly faster than doing the normal thing. Then I'm going to switch over to the spear weapon. One thing I really like is that you can just choose your weapon. Some of them are stronger than others, but the spear happens to be my favorite, so there's that. Alrighty. The plants here have 36 HP, the rabbits still have 20. We also deal a little bit more damage thanks to have leveling up, and here's a little fun fact. The mana seed that we just sealed with our sword actually also gives us a little bit of attack power, defense power. Basically, it gives us stats. Just a little bit. It's not a huge deal, but it does give us additional things. So further, I'm just doing a little bit of spawn manipulation here. These enemies here, I want to defeat because they are relatively quick to defeat, but also so I get my weapon level up higher. Each enemy gives you the exact same amount of weapon experience as long as you're not too high level compared to the enemy. Right now I still get the maximum weapon experience from all enemies. Also here you can see the traditional traveling method of Seeker of Mana. Cannon travel. You get shot high into the air, and apparently that's normal. Because if you talk to the cannon travel guy here before you get to the water palace, the cannon travel guy will tell you, hey, Gemma already paid for your cannon travel to the water palace. But walking is faster, by the way, as far as it might be. Either way, here we can do a little bit of bartering. This is Nico, he sells every item for double the price, but we have a little trick up our sleeves. So I'm gonna go into my regular menu, select or hover my cursor over the second item, then after I do this, I'm gonna go and sell both items again. This might seem weird, but let's get to this. Then I go into the buy menu, cancel out of the buy menu, and then I go into the sell menu, and suddenly it's really weird and the game doesn't have an idea on what to do, and I have a lot of money. Then I'm gonna buy 2 of each consumable item here, except the candy, in order for, well, to get through the game. So, worth noting, in Seeker of Mana, the regular maximum amount of items you can have in your inventory is 4. You can actually not have more than 4. Did I just buy too many? Hang on, I need to double check this, because that could be a problem if I did. I did. Alright.
Would you have time for a quick donation?
In just 1 minute. So here, I'm briefly going to go safe, because this next area with only one character is pretty dangerous. I still wanna level up the spear, but beyond that we're just gonna run through the dungeon to a dwarf village. So, now donation please.
Indeed, we have 2 donations. One is a $50 donation from Anonymous, and then, pardon me if I butcher this, Arnute with a $10 donation saying, what would go perfectly with Yaga's soothing voice and silky speed skills? Hand cam. So we are currently $98 away from our hand cam incentive, so if you guys want to donate towards that, we'll get that enabled. Back to you.
Alrighty, thank you very much. But yeah, right now everything is just with one character, just one controller, but as soon as we defeat the next boss, it's gonna be, well, a little bit more than that, so if you're curious about that, may want to consider. Plus, it's a good cause, to say the least. Alrighty, these goblins here are actually pretty dangerous if I don't handle them well. They have 64 HP, and I managed to just defeat enough, so our weapon skill is up. Which means we have now the spear also at level 1. Which means I don't really care about defeating any more enemies than that. Oh, this is awkward. Okay, got lucky. These slimes have actually really weird defense, so sometimes you just don't deal any damage to them when you try to hit them. And it can be really awkward to get past them since, well, they can easily just combo you until you're out. But hey, everything worked out quite well. Then we go over here, hit the switch, and then we are in the dwarf village. Alrighty, Now, here we are in the Dwarven village. Enjoy the music. And in the Dwarven village we need to do two things in order to advance the plot. One is we need to upgrade our sword to level 2. Upgrading your weapon means that it sometimes gets a special effect. In case of the sword, it basically just gets stronger. It doesn't really do anything special. But a little bit stronger is actually quite nice. On top of that, we can also start leveling up our weapon towards level 2. Since now we have a slightly stronger weapon in the sword, we will want to equip that for the next boss fight, and as well we want to start leveling it up towards level 2. That is actually all we will ever do for weapon leveling in this run in particular. Then here at the Dwarven shop, what we're gonna buy is 2 power wrists, 7 spiky suits, 4, 5, 6, 7, a helmet and a rabbit cap. Now, before I explain equipment, let me real quick explain as to why I only bought 2 of each item for my inventory. I now go over here, and I'm gonna go ahead and equip armor, throw it away, equip it, throw it away, equip, throw away, equip, throw away, equip, throw away. The reason why we do this is quite simple. Now, my consumable items here have in the top right, the amount is 0. This is not necessarily supposed to be the case like this. As you might expect, normally you have, well, 1, 2, 3 or 4, but 0? 0 is weird. The short version is, I now have each of the consumable items 8 times available, rather than the usual limit of 4. Plus I had to buy less in order to do this, so this is just overall a bit faster. So this is the equipment thrashing glitch. The short version is the game tries to unequip the item that you have equipped in order to then delete it afterwards. However, it kind of does that in a weird way where it takes account your horizontal position on the screen. And yeah, weird stuff happens. Basically, we just subtract from each item amount 2. Also further here, this is the theater, the second plot point that we have to complete in the Dwarven village in order to advance the story. After we get out of here, we're gonna be attacked by the Tropicalo, the second boss of the game. Okie dokie. So also, speaking about equipment real quick, in Secret of Mana it's really important that you have something equipped in each one of your equipment slots. In this case we have a lot of money, so it's not that big of a deal to just buy everything. But in short, if you do not have something equipped in each one of your inventory slots, the enemies have a significantly higher chance to get a high damage roll against you. That's the short version. Sometimes you just basically take double the damage compared to otherwise. So welcome to Tropicalo. Here is where I'm for the first time using the charge attack while action here. I'm holding down the B button, it charges up to level 1, and now I deal 50% more damage than a regular swing would. That includes high and low damage rolls at times, with a little bit of variance in there too. So optimally I defeat this Tropicalo here in this cycle, but I think I already got a low damage roll, so we're probably not gonna be able to do this unless we get a critical hit too. Nope. Critical hits are really rare, especially in the early game, but generally speaking too, unless you force them later. However, this was Tropicalo already, and we are about to get our second party member here. Also yes, frogs are friends, not food. So, real quick as well, a little hidden modifier. You might be wondering about the damage numbers there, if you're paying really close attention. The power wrist equipment that we bought in the Dwarven village here, it gives actually +5 strength as well, so it is very good. Just purely from dealing more damage to enemies type of deal too, so this is why we're gonna give it to the sprite here. So, on the sprite here, we generally speaking just name A, because that's the fastest way to do this. And then afterwards, I'm gonna give the sprite the spear weapon. I can open my partner menu with the X button rather than just the regular buttons. And then the magic of 2 controllers will happen very soon. So if you have some donations for the handcam incentive, now it would start being interesting. Either way, up here we need to go and buy the axe from Watts, and then we are off into the, well, Spiky Tiger fight. We're gonna actually do this in a rather roundabout way, literally. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. Either way, Seeker of Mana is not necessarily an easy game, especially the early game when you don't yet have magic. Spiky Tiger is probably one of the bosses that a lot of people remember to be really, really difficult, and for a good reason. But thanks to the magic of 2 controllers, we will be able to defeat it rather easily. So we equip the sprite with equipment pieces. Then we also set the control scheme upside down. I don't know why, but this is something you can do in this game here. Then I use a magic rope to get back to the entrance, which I couldn't do earlier than that room. And then we start leveling up the sword. So it's important that the boy actually gets the last hits on the enemies in order to be able to well, get the full weapon experience, because otherwise the sprite would get the full weapon experience and the boy only gets half of it, which would be less than ideal to say the least. So here, it actually doesn't matter whether the boy or the sprite gets the, well, kill on the flower, because the flower is actually low level enough compared to the boy at this point that he only gets half the weapon experience anyways. So whether he gets half of what the sprite earns or whether he gets half of his own thing really doesn't make a difference. So we need a total of 12.5 enemy kills in order to level up the sword from level 1 to level 2. Tropicalia was the first one, then we had a bee outside as the second one. The flower counts as a half, so we need just 10 more enemies. Also, if you know the game, you would think that, hey, we're gonna get the lady in the party very soon. But that is actually not the case. We are gonna use the back entrance, where you're supposed to use the whip normally. However, instead of using the whip, use the magic of Shank that allows us to just jump straight through walls via the magic of charge attacks. The short version as to why that happens is that the game does its sequencing of how it handles event in a weird way. So we literally just use 2 different ways of getting through the wall here in the same area. One was the boy just charging up a charge attack, the sword which has a lunge forward attack. And then we use the sprite's AI to get through the wall as well, because both of these things work. If you know how to use the physics in this game, or the lack of them I guess, the better it is. And we just kept getting the lady in our party. We are actually not really going to get her at all at this point. Also, I'm going to grab this mushroom here for 1 more enemy kill, just for backup really. I don't usually need that one, but, well, sometimes you do. So worth noting, the sprite has relatively low HP and also defense compared to the boy, so I need to be a bit careful about around these enemies. Either way, these eyes here spawn bow rats, and something I haven't quite mentioned yet is enemies can only appear up to 3 at a time. There's a maximum enemy limit of 3, so that is kind of important. Also now yes, there's 2 controllers right here. And this is going to be a bit of a tricky section because we need to get past the wolves. Alrighty, we got lucky there. Sometimes the wolves are quite ridiculously mean and just stun lock here. Thanks to having upgraded equipment, it's not that big of a deal if they do hit us, usually. Technically, they could just stun lock us and defeat us in 1 combo. It's kind of rare that does happen though, if we get hit at all. Either way, you may have noticed that the name of the other protagonist that we don't have in our party, the lady, is a bit weird. She is in fact named Go 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 Go. I probably didn't do that right, but it is 24 characters, 12 times Go if I'm not mistaken. Because in memory, the game can have character names up to 24 characters. Also here we just leveled up our sword to level 2, double checking real quick if I'm correct about that. I am. Luring out the chair, running past it. And then welcome to Spiky Tiger. So this is where we're gonna be, for the first time, use the overcharge glitch. The way we initiate this is by starting to charge the boy's weapon up to level 2, and then I use the second controller in order to swap out the weapons between the sprite and the boy. Then the boy has a spear, which only is a level 1 weapon for him, but he has a level 2 charge attack. The game doesn't know how to handle that, and well, you'll see in just a moment. So I hold down right on both controllers, then I use the menu on the second controller to start the charge without having to swing the weapon first. Gives me more time in-game wise. Then I need to hit the enemy here before he jumps away, and now we have a really high chance that the Spiky Tiger will start eating the sprite rather than jump, and boom. And then I even get the whiteout skip. So if you activate an event tile just as you defeat an enemy, you actually skip the whiteout that normally happens after bosses, and I did that by stepping on the entrance plates here that don't technically work, but technically have like a trigger to teleport us to the next room, or well, move us to the next room, I guess. Alrighty, that was Spiky Tiger. So there's a maximum damage we can do of 999. But as long as the bosses have less than 1000 HP, effectively, we can potentially one-shot them. It's gonna be a bit more complicated than that, because very soon we're going to run into enemies that have evasion. And well, I guess we'll get to that. Here we found the whip. The whip is actually the weapon, which is how you're intended to cross the gap that I did earlier in order to use the back entrance. The reason why I picked up the chest with 50 gold is because otherwise the lady here does not teleport me outside. Alrighty, and we have just defeated the Spiky Tiger. Now we're getting a message through, I don't know. Either way, we are supposed to help out Luca, who noticed us that the Mana Spirit of Water, Undine, was captured. And we are supposed to free Undine. Undine, basically, once we free her, will give us magic of both offensive and defensive variety. The sprite actually unlocks the more offensive-oriented spells, whereas the lady gets the well, defense and buff spells most of the time. There's some exceptions, but that's just kind of generally how elemental spirits and magic works. Usually when you play this game casually, once you finally get magic, that is when you may or may not notice that offensive magic is ridiculously strong. In fact, the one controller category of Seeker of Mana can technically do everything that the two controller category can as well, but because it's a bit less reliable, more janky, let's put it that way, it actually does still use magic in order to take out some enemies and bosses. Either way, boom. If you deal enough damage to one-shot the first form of this little lizard thingy, it actually transforms and, well, doesn't do anything. Also, more little mini glitches and optimizations. So here, I use the magic rope. When you use the magic rope, it brings you back to the entrance of an area. During that animation, the boy, specifically the boy, cannot move. However, the sprite and the lady can still move during that animation. So what I did is I used the magic rope and I saved a tiny bit of walking time as well as the fade out time of the magic rope by, well, walking into the cutscene trigger with Undine, where we get now water magic just before, well, using the magic rope, or the magic rope animation complete, so to speak. So it looks a bit weird, but that's just what happens at the beginning here. No Japanese. So, technically the Japanese version of this game may be faster, however there's some problems with that. To be fair, in the re-releases those problems were fixed, but the original Super Nintendo version of the Japanese version here has rather significant issues, let's put it this way. So, imagine you defeat the boss, and then while the boss is exploding, you decide to just switch character from the boy to the sprite. You softlock because of it. So yeah, don't switch character in the Japanese version. But because in the speedrun you wanna prepare for the next section coming up, you might just be switching characters anyways for specific sections for specific characters. So it makes this a little bit awkward if you can't switch characters, let's put it this way. But yeah, the Japanese version might still technically be faster, but at this point, even the Japanese runners actually run the English version. So there's that. But no Japan— oh, that's a different one. Fair enough. Alrighty, so here we can now use the sprite's magic to activate this orb. So these orbs here react to a specific spell, in this case it's freeze. And after we activate the orb, we can now, well, run through. Then here, I'm actually just gonna run past these goblins before they can do anything whatsoever. It's actually kind of precise, and if you mess it up, these goblins are kind of notorious for being really dangerous, because they can just stunlock you and knock you out in quick succession. It is decently likely that you just get killed here. Especially with low-level characters, as well as only 2 actually, rather than 3. Because, well, we are supposed to have 3 characters right now. But as you may have noticed, navigating these areas here means that I'm actually only able to advance as long as my other characters are effectively close enough, so to speak, in order to not be too far off screen. So there's basically like a camera box that the characters cannot be outside of under normal circumstances. And that is a little bit of a problem, let's put it that way. Because often AI control characters get stuck on little boundaries, on little enemies and stuff like that, or just kind of on staircases. They get stuck everywhere. And you have to navigate them and manipulate them enough in order to get around areas. So here we have the fire gigas. So I'm gonna set up the overcharge again, switch, hit this guy once, and then, let's see. Alright, he didn't go down, so that means he actually has— oh wait, never mind. Sometimes you get a low damage roll here, where my backup is to use a spell in order to try and deal the remaining damage. But I guess I managed to open up the menu slightly earlier than usual. Usually you can't open the menu anymore as soon as you defeat the fire gigas right there. But it's also really tight. If you manage to mess this up, the sprite will get one-shot by any spell the fire gigas throws at you. Because these spells are balanced around you having 3 characters rather than 2. Also here I was supposed to use the magic rope before walking in this cutscene, but hey, you get to see the little cute sprite of Gnome. Also, Gnome here gives us more spells to use, mostly earth magic related, and there's actually some of them that we're going to use. So now they say to the mana seed, but fun fact, the game never checks for whether you seal the mana seed of earth or not. Like, it just assumes you do, but you never have to. Like, you literally can just walk away and progress the story as normal, and the game is none the wiser. The same counts for the mana seed of the wind. Casually or even glitchless, you do want to seal it, because that means without sealing these, we can no longer, like, improve the level of the spells that we have. But yeah, this is kind of all there is to this. I keep switching characters, by the way, because running, or dashing I guess, is a really good way of manipulating AI-controlled characters to follow in your footstep without reacting to enemies. By default, AI-controlled characters are set to be super passive and run away from enemies. But as soon as they are close enough to enemies, they still kind of engage in combat, so to speak. So there's that. Alrighty, quick question. How close are we to the handcam thingy? Because generally speaking, I would like to show some things off too, but I'm not sure whether that is an option or when that would be.
Currently our donation incentive is still at $98 and 98 cents. So if anybody wants to go ahead and get that whittled down, we can definitely show off some hand cam. Because, oh boy, 2 controllers by 1 player is pretty impressive.
Alrighty, thank you for the update, I appreciate that. So next up, we are going to the Pandora Ruins. And Pandora Ruins is actually kind of an interesting illustration of speedrunning Seeker of Mana in a nutshell, let's put it this way. Like, it's just kind of a mini-universe for the entire game, more or less. The short version is, we have a plan on how to clear each one of the rooms in a very specific way, but each one of the rooms does have its own potential of going right. We want to enter the right door here, so we can dash straight up. Sometimes this tomato guy can be in the way. Then in this room here, we want to dash down left. Usually this is fine. Then here, I go down left, dash down right. The sprite is always going to hit the sword, so this works. However, the rest of this room here, you might be wondering why I'm walking in such a weird way. I'm manipulating enemy spawns. As mentioned before, there can only be up to 3 enemies spawned at any given moment. So I'm gonna hit the zombie here, because it's always gonna spawn. And then I'm gonna dash down left, up right, up left. And then hit the zombie. Sometimes that zombie doesn't spawn and is actually a bit more efficient if it doesn't, because you have to hit it, the sprite will get caught if you don't. And that worked pretty well. And the boss is actually gonna be part of that Seeker of Mana speedrun in a nutshell, because this is the war phase. This is probably the first time you might have noticed that your weapons are a bit weird and don't really hit the enemies. Well, let me put it this way. Seeker of Mana has a chance to hit calculation that it never tells you about. If you just swing at an enemy and it doesn't do anything, it can be that you missed them because your weapon wasn't close enough. It can be that the game just decides, 40% of the time you just don't hit them. Or it can be that the enemy was in a defensive position or in an invulnerable state because it was casting a spell. There is numerous reasons as to why your attack might just not work. So, yeah. Either way, the hope is that I just managed to defeat this boss in one swing. However, 40%... Ooh, that's his mark. It's fine. 40% of the time... Alright, that worked pretty well actually overall. 40% of the time... I will just straight up miss. And right there, that was a miss. So that's a really high chance to miss. If you play Pokemon, you probably don't like using Thunder, because it has a 70% chance to hit, meaning 30% chance to miss. That's huge. Yeah, it gets better the higher level and the more agility you have on a character, but for the most part you do have a really high chance to miss, and the game doesn't tell you about that. Alrighty, and further, there is also the chance that we land a low damage roll, so in short, we had about a 50-50 shot at one-shotting the wall or not. And that's kind of the catch about Seeker of Mana, how you need to be prepared for what if you don't hit. That is always going to be a concern, to say the least. Alrighty, and we managed to move on further. So, you could take the cannon travel just north of Pandora in order to get back to Gaia's navel, in order to get back to the Dwarven village, but it's actually faster to run instead. The cannon travel animation is actually really lengthy, and you don't really realize how long it is until you start speedrunning things, I feel. Well, maybe you do, but still, it's actually quite fascinating.
I do have a fantastic update for you.
Alrighty, thank you. Go ahead.
I have 2 donations, $20 from Sailor J saying we need the hand cam, and then thank you Anonymous for the $95 donation saying hand cam right meow. And so that actually meets our incentive for the hand cam, so we're going to get that loaded up for you here shortly.
Oh wow, holy moly, thank you so much everybody. That's amazing. I really appreciate
It's more amazing to know that we have all of our incentives met for this entire event. So thank you everyone for your awesome donations, and they're going to a great cause.
Indeed. Thank you so much everybody, and well, thank you for letting me know. And hello. I can't wave at you now, I guess. Alrighty. So, I have two controls, one is upside down. Why is the one upside down? Because that's how I play this game. Let me actually make sure that I'm in the proper frame here. I hope I am. Alrighty, we get down to the Scorpion army is boat here, they stole the mana seed of water and we are trying to get it back. Also, please pay attention to the design of the killing machine, the Kilroy. It's actually really goofy the more you think about it. It has like these pico hammers that just are really weird. It's fascinating. Alrighty, I need to have the boy here run in first. Let me demonstrate. So I'm holding down the B button here with my index finger on the right hand. And then on the left, basically I move around with the sprite here. Then I switch weapon on the second controller down here. And then I hope I hit this guy. All bosses at this point have evasion. I can one-shot him. Hey, I did. Nice. Lucky. I can one-shot him, but it doesn't always happen. Alrighty, so just kind of to reiterate, because I couldn't quite show it off while I was setting it up. This controller is actually right side up right now. Oh wait, hang on. I think I forgot to invert or flip the screen around. Hang on. This is my #1 controller. Can I ask
while you're doing that?
Can I ask whether I can just briefly flip the controller cam around, because otherwise it's gonna be awkward to... Well, actually I'm just gonna check real quick. I did not mean to go down there. Sorry, real quick.
You're good. While you're doing that, I just want to say thank you, LJ, for the $175 donation with no comment. So, awesome donation going to a fantastic cause. Thank you so much for the amazing donation.
Alright. Thank you for... Yeah, that's actually really awesome. And thank you for the little bit of time. Alrighty. I forgot to flip the camera around. Sorry, that is my bad. So it should be now more easily manageable. You should see basically the controllers the way I see them. So it is easy to explain. Just kind of to reiterate, my second controller is upside down, but it's technically the correct way around for the D-pad direction, because Seeker of Mana has rebindable buttons, and part of that rebindable button set, it allows you to actually flip your D-pad directions, like upside down, left side, right. It's kind of interesting as to why that even is an option, but right now, me holding this controller basically upside down is actually kind of the normal way. It's really fascinating, I feel. So, I actually talked to the cannon travel guy with the sprite first, because for some reason this allows me to move with the boy way earlier as soon as we land. Also, I have just remembered I need to save before this boss, because this boss here is kind of notorious for being able to just end your run. So here's the thing, the chance of him just killing you, not particularly high, but it absolutely can happen. So I'd rather not have that happen during a marathon run and have to redo everything from the water palace. That would be less than ideal. Alrighty, I'm gonna go and accidentally sleep. I just meant to save. You can save by saying that you don't want to rest, you just wanna save, so to speak. But hey, for the only time in this run you get to hear the sleeping music and the save sound. That's okay too, sometimes. Okie dokie, now we are saved, now we can go to the next big boss, and that's the Jabberwocky. Oh boy. Kind of threw me off there, sorry. So, in this next screen here, I'm actually using both controllers at the same time to navigate the screen here, because these fishes can be really mean, so I'm actually literally just using both controllers at the same time. Then here, in this here, also same thing, I just use both controllers, because if you have an AI character training behind you, that AI character is just a bit too slow, and you do not reliably get through that room if you let the AI controller move manually. So I actually have to use my little pinky finger of my left hand in order to press the run button here, the red A button, so I can actually move or activate the buttons on the second controller. My setup is mainly so I can move both characters, but pressing buttons at the same time is a bit tricky. Also, welcome to Jabberwocky. He has a really wonky hitbox and I hope he doesn't cast Acid Storm. Let's see. Sure. Okay, that was lucky. Nice. So Jabberwocky is actually one of the few bosses who has no animation when he is casting a spell. He just suddenly the spell animation lands on you, and his spell always targets all party members. The spell is tuned around having 3 party members with decent level and equipment, and he still hits like a truck. Which means I actually do not survive him casting Acid Storm. I will die. So we need to reseal the Mana Seed of Water. I mean, we just do this from the side because that's more efficient. Then we need to talk to Luca just once. And here we go. Also, fun fact about Jabberwocky, his hitbox is actually really messed up. So instead of having the hitbox that he would expect up on his head and like his feet and belly, etc., from the middle of his body, it goes way below his feet. So I can hit Jabberwocky basically from super far away, if I get the correct charge attack, that is. Which, by the way, may be worth noting. If you use melee weapons in boss fights, your reach or your area of effect of your weapons is effectively doubled. Meaning you can hit enemies from way further away than what you might expect. Which might initially seem like a good thing, and mostly it is, but we're actually coming up on a boss where that is not necessarily beneficial to you, that you have a larger area of effect or attack during boss fights. So yeah. Sometimes hitboxes in this game are actually really strange. Although, to be fair, most of the time when people think the hitboxes are weird in this game, it's just the game not telling you that it did a chance to hit calculation and you missed. Which, by the way, worth noting, all enemies either have evasion or they don't. There's not really anything in between. So I'm using the second controller to mash through the text here while trying to navigate with the first controller to a Moogle that hopefully is gonna sit here so I can talk to the Moogle afterwards. And then that is basically part of the plot. We have to talk to Moogle, otherwise we don't know that they need to... Well, they are kind of driven out of their own little home village by the mean little pebblers over here. So the pebblers are little hedgehogs, and this is the first instance, actually the only instance I think, of enemies that we have to defeat that are technically regular enemies, but they have evasion. Meaning, 40% of the time, I'm just going to straight up miss my attack here. Also, I missed actually my attack for different reasons here, to be fair, but yeah. Ooh, wow, 2 hits immediately, that's pretty lucky. And nice. Alrighty, I'm getting really lucky here with the chance to hit right now. Also, as you might notice, during cutscenes and stuff, I often like to select the second controller because with the second controller I can already start walking outside. This has the downside that I have to press the start button on the second controller in order to unselect the second, well, character, because running through the entire screen with 2 controls at the same time, while technically doable, is often actually somewhat inefficient. So, AI-controlled characters can actually run without using up stamina, which is kind of a big deal, because then you can effectively... Here, I'm gonna dash down right here, and then I'm switching the sprite to dash straight to the right. Also, apparently, the boy is confused, like literally. My controls are inverted, without me seeing any spell going off like that. So here's the thing, often you do get confused by that owl in the previous screen, but I didn't even see it start casting. That was fascinating. Which, by the way, they cast Silence, which confuses you and silences you, which is very confusing. Especially if you have an upside-down controller. That kind of makes your controls the correct way around all of a sudden. Alright, either way, welcome to the Spring Beak here. Let's see whether I get it. This should look good. So you hear the zing noise. That is when I hit the beak of the Spring Beak. Nice. But I had to stand really, really far away from the Spring Beak here in order to be able to hit him without hitting his beak. Because some bosses have like a shield. If you hit their shield with your attack, it just doesn't do anything. You had that plink noise. And if I didn't stand as far away as I did, As mentioned before, during boss fights, your attack range is doubled, and consequently, well, you just hit their shield more often than not. Ranged weapons, generally speaking, don't have that problem, so they are usually used against while flying and jumping enemies like the Springweak, as you would expect. But yeah, this is kind of what we do here. Alrighty, and kind of like before, when we were supposed to seal the Mana Seed of Earth, here we're just gonna get the Mana Spirit of Wind in order to get Wind Magic, and we are not even going to worry about, well, sealing the Mana Seed of Wind. The game never checks for it, and since we effectively deal maximum damage anyways, we don't really need it. However, the Grandpa here also lets us save real quick. So we do exactly that. This is mainly for marathon safety. You don't necessarily need to do that. In fact, regular speedruns just don't, but it's a small investment for a bit of safety. Next up, welcome to the rest of the game. So initially we were just kind of running back and forth in the first area, and now it's more of a linear adventure right now. Which, at this point, it's worth noting that dash I did just to that screen earlier. I can do this with the sprite, but I couldn't do this with the boy, because if I do it with the sprite, the boy is fine. But if I do it with the boy, the sprite is going to get hit by that silk tail that I just run past. That is because the sprite has a slightly less high, but a slightly wider hitbox. So your characters don't just look like they have a slightly different hitbox, but they actually do have it, which makes for really interesting little like routing decisions where literally you're just not using a character in the front, or because one of the other characters might just get hit. Alrighty, it would have been better if I could have selected the boy here in order to select the axe, but well, he was silenced, as in he was confused, which would have been very confusing to use. Which, by the way, confusion inverts your D-pad direction, left, right, up, down, etc. Also here, we're supposed to talk to the King Truffle, but we use the ability of an AI-controlled character to just walk through NPCs to completely ignore that part. And we just go straight into the cave, where we're going to help out Flammy. So here, we are going to run into a little roadblock in the form of a peddler. Oh, didn't hit him. These guys just have evasion, so sometimes you just don't hit them, and that's just how it is. Which, by the way, fun fact, I mentioned that enemies either have evasion or they don't. Technically, there is one enemy that instead of 96 evasion, as a number, whatever that number means, don't worry about it. Instead of 96 evasion, it has 91 or 92 or something like that, and that one enemy is this green owl here. Why it is like that, I have no idea, but technically the green owl has a very slightly less chance of avoiding your attack. Random fun fact. Either way, these owls here, they love casting silence, and when they do cast silence, that means your character is confused. As well as the owls love to absolutely destroy your poor little character at that point. Let's see, are you not okay, sprite is still silenced. I have to actually remove the silence in order to be able to cast a spell here. Usually it wears off before you arrive here, but sometimes, well, it doesn't. Alright, we need to activate this orb here with our spell in order to be able to move into the next area for the boss fight here. Also, the sprite needs to go ahead and switch back to the spear so we can do, actually the sword, so we can do our one player, two controller or weapon switch shenanigans. So, welcome to the Great Viper. Two things. This is the last boss who does not have evasion, which means if I hit, I hit. But it's also the first boss who has over 1000 HP, which means I need to hit it twice. There we go. Okay, also something I haven't quite explained yet. When I do the overcharge glitch, you see the charge bar at the bottom go absolutely crazy. And we actually have a system, or we kind of know which type of attack we're going to get based on the graphic that shows up down there. So we actually have a pretty good idea for the most part on what is going to happen. However, in order to see exactly what is going to happen, I often open the menu on the second controller here, so we can specifically see what is going to happen. But that's not everything. On top of that, there's actually a secondary glitch associated with charging up your weapon. So what I'm actually doing is I charge up the weapon with a character, then I open up the menu on the second controller, release the charge attack on the first controller, and then close the menu on the second controller. And while doing that, I repress the charge button. What this does, it is basically going to unleash the charge attack while simultaneously retaining the charge attack level that we currently have. Like, let's say you don't even have to do overcharges in order to do that. You can just charge up your weapon up to level 8, which is the standard maximum in the game normally. You charge up your weapon up to level 8, and then you do that, open up the menu on the secondary controller, release the charge attack, and then afterwards you go ahead and repress the charge button as the menu is closing, which as soon as you start charging up your weapon again, you will actually restart immediately at level 8 of your charge attack. So it's kind of like a weapon charge retaining glitch, which for some arcane reason just perfectly functions in conjunction with the overcharge glitch. So basically, this is something that the one controller run cannot do. Well, not more than once. It's awkward. Either way, you can basically retain the current charge attack that I'm having if I open up the menu on the second controller. So it's basically kind of double acting as a buffer for me to see what charge attack I'm getting and whether I'm going to be able to hit the enemy or boss, as well as it's going to effectively tell me as to well, and not tell me. I will also simultaneously be able to retain that charge attack and use that same exact charge attack again as soon as I close or start charging again with the second controller. Alrighty, so if you've been wondering what happened to the lady and whether we will ever see her in this run, well, fear not, she's going to join us very soon. In this section of the game, normally your party gets split up. The sprite gets sent to the kitchen, the lady gets sent to the mayor's cabin because I guess she is cute or something, and the boy gets sent into the machine room so he walks around and generates heat or something. I don't know how machines work. Either way, basically, here... Nice. Might explain that later. Here, I need to talk to this guy up there twice in order for him to distract the guards so we can just go. So, fire! Fire! What? Get out of my way. And then they just start walking around randomly. I have no idea, but... Please? Oh my goodness. They can't get out of my way. Little fun fact, if you want to do a moonwalk in this game, hold down the B button and R. Or hold down the B button and L. Either one of these work. And you can effectively just never change facing direction. It doesn't have much practical application, but hey, sometimes it does. Either way, we find the sprite and welcome back to the party sprite. And then, as a kid, it took us like an hour in order to find this one door, because it really isn't obvious that this is supposed to be a door right here. I just wanted to point that out. Either way, we get basically to the mayor's cabin here, where we find the lady, and for us, this is the first time we actually have the lady in our party. She is level 1 with literally no equipment. Because we never give her a name, which by the way, her name is still go. Because we never give her a name, and her glitched out name by the way costs us like 48 seconds over the course of the run due to text display, she actually does not get her weapon, which normally is her claw weapon. She still has it initially equipped. However, as soon as we switch away from her weapon, we will no longer have the access to the claw weapon and will never be able to use it anymore. Further, she is level 1 with no equipment. She will get one-shot by everything, but thankfully we are about to defeat the boss, which this is the last boss who does not have over 1000 HP, meaning that I will be able to one-shot this guy. Here I'm going to equip the whip on the lady for later. And hello, goodbye. I also try to wiggle my characters into position after I complete the boss fight, in order for them to be as close together as possible. Sometimes a bit more time, sometimes I have a bit less time for this. Also, I prematurely switch over to the lead because I want her to be in the lead. So there's all these little micro decisions in order to optimize the run, which, by the way, I'm not the record holder. There's some people that are way better than me at this point. But it's actually really fun. Alrighty, welcome to the desert. Because this is a marathon run, we do not skip buying equipment here. This saves like, I don't know, like 40 seconds to a minute. But it's really dangerous if you get caught by enemies, and well, we kind of want to keep this run marathon friendly, so I'm going to go ahead and buy upgraded equipment. I'm actually only going to buy one armband because I still want to keep the power wrist on the boy so he does more damage on average, as well as on the sprite, because it's actually specifically important for the vampire to be able to be hit by the sprite as well. But that's kind of a fringe case scenario. Further, I'm also going to go ahead and give everybody ice sabers. So elemental sabers in this game allow you to hit enemies and do special effects with them, usually. Which, by the way, fun fact, elemental sabers do not actually deal elemental damage, they're still neutral damage. It just increases your base damage by a little bit. Either way, ice sabers, if I hit an enemy, there's a high chance that they will turn into a snowman. And an enemy turned into a snowman is basically neutralized, because welcome to the ice country, where we have wolves. Wolves are super fast, have a really wide attack radius and attack jump, and they are basically a huge menace in every single speedrun type category. So I'm going to try and hit them before they hit me. Sometimes they're nice, often they're not. But let's see. Hey, we're getting lucky here. Nice. That's actually a really good first screen right there. I also do more spawn manipulations. I walk down right into the tree line here. Upright, straight down, there's going to be a wolf, I'm gonna hit it, and I did not actually transform him into a snowman, so I'm gonna wait to hit him again, because he will hit my other allies if I don't. Then I'm gonna move up here, slightly, to spawn this wolf and the cloud just down here. Then there's less enemies in the middle, often there is none, and we can just walk straight through. That was actually really clean. Alrighty, welcome to the Boreal Phase. Here, I'm going to go ahead and do the usual shenanigans again. There's a very specific strategy you can use in order to effectively defeat this guy without him diving back down, but it requires you to cast a spell in order to keep him in position, and very specifically, and well, I haven't practiced that, to be completely frank with you. It doesn't save that much time, but it would save time. I just wanted to point that out. Alrighty, and yeah, the Ice Country music is some of the most beautiful one. Unfortunately, we don't get to hear it for much longer, because even though you're supposed to visit the Ice Palace after picking up Salamander, well, we don't. It's really that simple. Also here, I'm gonna talk with the man here with Mon Controller while walking... Ah, messed up. I'm not supposed to walk into this guy's cutscene box here. Well, I'm supposed to skip this little cutscene where he walks away, but I messed up. Oh well. Well, either way, what is supposed to happen here is that when I open this, Salamander normally appears here, which he does now too. But if I skip the initial part where the green guy tells me to make sure that nobody opens up the oven, everything in the cutscene is basically just one step behind. The Scorpion army here on the right side, the three guys, would just not be here, and they would only appear once they are supposed to start walking away. It looks actually really goofy, and it's a bit unfortunate that I couldn't show it off. Either way, messing with like cutscene and plot event triggers is kind of a theme that we will be walking with. Also, the lake still has elemental weapon charges that I will want to use here. Let's see, what does this wolf do? I'm just gonna hit him. Sometimes he's nice and you can just run straight past, but it's usually safer to just hit him. Alright, that was pretty good for the Ice Country. So, Let me real quick explain what I'm going to do in the Fire Temple, because I will want to have a bit of focus there and probably not commentate too much what's happening. The short version is, there is a elemental switch that you're supposed to activate with Exploder in the basement with Salamando, with the sprite's magic. I'm gonna skip that one by going up the ramp. That ramp just kind of pushes you down. You can just normally skip this by using the claw weapon and just punching your way up the ramp. Some of us might have done that as kids and such, which is quite fun. However, skipping that switch in the basement allows me to actually set the entire palace to be like one step behind on the plot events. What is normally supposed to happen if I just grab Salamando and go to seal the Mana Seed of Fire, they will tell me that, hey, the Mana Seed of Fire is not here. And well, because we're going to skip one part of the entire dungeon, the entire event is basically messed up. So, gonna give a barrel here to the sprite and the boy. Then we're gonna run up with the lady. I'm gonna start casting heal on everybody. Then I'm gonna switch character, give the lady also a barrel. We'll switch back to the lady as soon as the heal procs, and then we hold up. So, this is the barrel slide. The barrel slide is a weird technique that, while if you get hit with a healing or even damaging spell or attack while you are in a barrel and you hold a direction, you actually can just continuously slide in a direction without ever getting stopped by like conveyor belts or like that little slide thing that is supposed to push you back down. So this is kind of what I did there just now. It's kind of a neat little way of skipping that section. There's different ways of how you can do it, but this is by far the fastest and also easiest way. And it's also one controller way. The one controller way used to be incredibly elaborate and specific on how you had to do that little skip. Either way, gonna leave the lady here at the entrance, go and hit the switch, hold left, press the X button for the partner menu, hit the rope wall up there so the lady can walk through the wall, we hold up right, run onto the switch, have the sprite cast freeze twice on this orb here, and as soon as the orb activates, we hold down with the boy, hold up with the lady, and this actually transfers the second orb event that I hit with the second spellcast of the sprite's freeze spell, and oops, I did not mean to open the menu. It basically just activates the second event in a really weird way that kind of transforms it or transfers it into the next room where the Minotaur fight is normally supposed to happen. But I just completely skipped the Minotaur fight by transferring that event into the next room. Consequently, because we never defeated the Minotaur, the enemies are actually still present in this screen here, so it requires a little bit of finagling in order to get through this room and back out. Alrighty. We have, however, sealed the Mana Seed of Fire, which consequently means that the cannon travel is unlocked in order to go over to the Empire. Alright. Fire Palace is so much happening in such a short time. Also, goodbye for the cannon travel, because this is the last time we get to fly. So, if you like cannon travel, please enjoy this ride. Alrighty. Welcome to Southtown. In Southtown, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to talk to Mara, who is part of the rebels, and she will give you the sewer access code in order for you to go in there. However, if the guy never notices that you go into the sewers, you don't need the access code. So what we are doing, I'm actually going to be pushing my character pixel perfect against the wall. Let's see whether I have the alignment. I do not. Let's try to fix it. I still don't have the alignment. I did get it. Okay. We're pixel perfectly pushed against the wall, which means this guy here, his trigger hitbox is actually just exactly not wide enough for us to get noticed by him, so he never actually, well, blocks the entrance to the sewers, and we can just walk straight through. Then, here, we're going to do the safe route and cast Balloon on these guys. But Balloon effectively it's a stun. It doesn't work on all enemies, but it works on most. And these blue blobs here have the habit of, well, if they hit you, they have a really high chance to turn you into a snowman, kind of like I did on the wolves earlier. Oh, this is not good. Okay, they somehow managed to get through there without getting hit. Very surprising. Then we just mash select in order to get all characters past that blue blob. And then we hope that they hit. Yes, thank you. Please get through. Oh my goodness. No! Oh no, go away. There's the lady getting hit. So, I don't know why or when these things activate the chase mode, but sometimes they do, and it's kind of scary because... I don't know, these blobs are scary when they go fast. I don't know why that's so scary. Maybe because I'm a speedrunner, and that costs you time, but still. Alrighty, by the way, do not go into this little cutscene while the boy is a snowman, because you will softlock the game. Why? Well, because the boy does a little head nod animation when you enter this room and get into the cutscene. And a snowman does not have a head nod animation. Consequently, the game just locks up as soon as the boy is supposed to do that animation. Which, another fun fact, you can actually permanently lose character if you manage to have them turn into a snowman but still walk around and push against enemies. Like literally permanently lose characters. It's kind of fun to do solo character challenges in this game because you can just delete the other characters that you don't want. At the end of it, you still need the sprite and the lady to activate various orbs to get through the game, but it's kind of fascinating to just have only like the sprite in the fight against the mana beast and such. Alrighty, after this little cutscene, I'm gonna try and get a weird little glitch where there is weapon orb chests on the balconies on the top left and the top right. If I hit the B button exactly as I regain control, I can actually potentially remotely open up these chests. The reason for this is because the game has not yet calculated the distance between me and the chest that I would like to pick up. So that means I'm technically, in the game's opinion, close enough to be able to... Oh, I got it! Close enough to be able to open up this chest. It's always fun. Which, by the way, don't do that if you're trying to go fast, because it's inefficient. But it's fun. Alrighty. Kind of like the other ruins here, we have a plan for every single room. Do not run in this one, hold down right, then dash straight down in this room. Same with the next room as well, just hold down right, dash straight down, and you will be fine. Probably, unless the enemies get in your way. Hold straight to the left over here. Go into this room, then you go up to the thing. So enemies usually do the same thing every single time you enter the room. These slimes immediately try to just duplicate themselves as long as... Well, they actually just try to duplicate at the very beginning. But if there are too many enemies, as in 3 exactly, then they cannot duplicate. So consequently, by me moving up just slightly with the camera, the slime can actually not spawn any more enemies. Here, plop. And then we walk with the second controller outside, deactivate the second controller here again, so the AI can still run, because that's just more efficient than me trying to finagle and fumble my way with 2 controllers running. Then we go over here. And here I could technically use the second controller in order to get to the door slightly quicker, but I actually want to be here with just 1 controller, specifically with the lady in the lead. If you have the boy in the lead, both the lady and the sprite will get hit by that red bat. In this room here, you specifically want the lady in the lead, because both the sprite and the boy are usually fast enough to not, well, get caught by these enemies. Usually. Then here you want to be really close to the wall, let this guy spawn an additional enemy. This prevents 2 imps from spawning in this room here. And wow, you managed to do that again. I'm impressed. Either way, using medical herbs basically removes most negative status effects. Except for being dead, then you need to use a couple of wishes. Alrighty, but we managed to mostly get through these ruins here. And welcome to the second wall phase, or Doom's Wall as it is called. Here, I position the lady in front, so in case the Doom's Wall is going to cast an offensive spell that targets the character, it will always target the closest character, which is going to be the lady in this case. Well, it would be, but we actually knocked it out before it could do that. So, the second attack missed, as it sometimes does, and the third attack hit. that was pretty good luck, I would say. Worked pretty well. I'm actually avoiding moving after the wall starts exploding, because sometimes you can actually get slightly out of the camera boundaries and soft lock your game when you are celebrating here. It's a bit awkward, but oh well, we're not really losing any time. Okay, and here, something I haven't mentioned yet, by the way. The way I'm playing this game is on a SNES Mini. This is official Nintendo hardware with a bunch of Super Nintendo games that you just have on controllers. There's two reasons why I'm doing this. One, the SNES Mini controllers are way better than the original Super Nintendo controllers in terms of like, you press buttons, stuff happens that you expect it to. Especially start and select buttons are really worn out on my original Super Nintendo controllers and the game that I tend to play, well, a lot here really. So especially start and select are so much nicer on the SNES Mini controllers. In fact, I have adapters so I can use the SNES Mini controller on my regular Super Nintendo. However, the other reason is, and this is especially important in my opinion for marathons, this little cutscene here, as well as the next one, has a really high, like, flickering. I would have to throw out an epilepsy warning here, but the SNES Mini emulator thingy, so to speak, actually dampens the strobing light effects and just kind of makes them not quite as extreme. So it is way nicer on your eyes too. Alrighty, welcome to Vampire. You cannot hit Vampire while it is flying around. Let's hope it's not flying around. Okay. I forgot to select the second controller moving in here. This could be a bit awkward. Alright, we should be fine. The sprite is in position, so the vampire will try to eat him. Too early, this is fine. So I'm casting Slowdown. Slowdown itself doesn't actually do anything. However, what it does for me is it locks the vampire into its animation for a little bit longer. And so because I cannot hit vampire while it is going up, okay, I win. Nice, that was really lucky. Because I cannot hit vampire while it is flying around, if it is jumping down, first of all, I position the sprite in a way where I effectively force the vampire to try and eat the sprite, which is a really lengthy animation. And on top of that, I extend that animation by interrupting it with slowdown like vines over and over and over. I specifically want to use a spell that does not deal damage, because it is way easier to chain physical damage into the end of a slowdown animation than it is on the end of any other kind of animation. Plus, the spells of the sprite, because they're all level 0 and we skipped 2 of the mana seeds, are actually not doing any damage whatsoever. So effectively, just slowdown is the way to go, because, well, true to its name, it literally slows down the boss for us to just knock him out. Is that an intentional design choice or some emulation imperfection with the SNES Mini? It's an intentional choice from what I can tell. Because, well, back in the Super Nintendo days, and especially NES days, games would often flicker and the sensitivity to epilepsy, well, or seizure-related things was just not there, so to speak. And the SNES Mini emulator, or is basically, it is an emulator that plays ROM, so to speak. That's what an SNES Mini does. Oh, 1 HP. And that is an intentional design choice from what I can tell, which I approve. It's a bit weird in some instances because some of the effects are a bit dimmer than you would expect them to be, but that's okay. Either way, I just knocked out the lady here. Why the lady? Well, because she has the lowest level and lowest defense, so she has a good chance of getting knocked out in only 2 hits rather than 3. Didn't quite happen this time, but oh well. Either way. So, quick note. There is 2 modes the characters can be in. Either in combat areas where the weapons are drawn, and in non-combat areas where the weapons are not out. In non-combat areas like the town here, we have no weapons out and AI control characters can just face and walk through NPCs, no problem. However here, this is a combat area where we have our weapons out, and an AI control character can in fact not just normally face through NPCs unless they are already dead. Means ghosts can, as a matter of fact, just go straight through NPCs and we go up the left side staircase. So fun fact, this was actually one of the later skips that were found in this game here, because, I don't know, we just didn't think of it. Like, we tried many times to try and face through these NPCs on whether we might be able to just get through them like you normally get back into the POTUS or get through the mushroom earlier too. We just didn't think of this. I don't know why. At some point Crow just kind of suggested, wait, couldn't you just do this? I think it was Crow anyways. So yeah, it's great. Alrighty, and welcome to Mech Rider number 2. Which, by the way, fun fact, as many bosses and enemies as we skip, we actually fight all the Mech Riders. So this is number 2 here. Number 2 requires 2 hits to be defeated. And you do not want to stand in front of him, otherwise he will charge across the screen. As long as I hit him twice in quick succession, this is of no concern. Which, by the way, you may have heard that the sprite just leveled up the sword to level 1. That is specifically a sprite to sword level 1, which is actually exactly what we need. Which, by the way, is a beautiful coincidence that it just happens that way with the routing that we do. It's not even intentional. But fun fact, this little cutscene where you actually enter the fight with the Mech Rider number 2 is the reason why I'm like 98% certain that the Secret of Mana remake actually uses the Secret of Mana codebase and just transferred everything from that, because, little known fact, you actually for whatever reason gain weapon experience when you start the Mech Rider number 2 fight on your main characters. Why? I don't know, that's just what you do. Also, wrong way around, that's fine. But basically, there's absolutely no reason for in the Secret of Mana remake for that little same cutscene to give you weapon experience, yet it does. This is not good. Ow! We might be fine here. Oh! Oh god, this is scarier than it should be. Alright, I need to actually be on the lady. Ah no, don't knock out the sprite. But yeah, as you might be able to note here, we have very little defense at this point, so this is in fact a little bit of a problem. But hey, we can still do it. So, we need to go mountain climbing. And we do the mountain climbing in a bit of a strange way. Hit the boy, please, thank you. I do actually want the boy to be lower HP than the other cactus, but I would like for the other cactus still to be alive, because I need one cactus alive at least. Specifically the sprite is nice. This mountain climb here is always a little bit of a mess. So, what you do is you charge up the sword to level 1 with the sprite, release it, and then you talk to the Sage Jog, kind of like this. And then you can literally just walk into the trials. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to clear the gold tower, get Lumina, you're supposed to then get Luna in the Moon Palace, you're supposed to, well, do a little subplot in Tasnica, and you're supposed to complete the Shadow Temple. We do none of these things, we just decide to walk through walls and, well, get to the doppelganger straight away. Which, by the way, this is the very first skip that I contributed to this game here, although at the time it was done in a much more roundabout way. Later on, I think Colrustis and Shaden managed to figure out a much more efficient method of skipping that part there. So, the reason I actually want my characters to be low HP or even dead, which this is really inefficient the way they are doing this here, is because there's 2 ways of defeating the doppelgangers. Normally when you play casually, you likely don't even know that there's a secondary method on how to defeat them. That method is, you just let your characters get knocked out. The reason why most people don't figure this out is because the equipment at the time you have literally makes you invulnerable to these guys at this point. Like, you cannot get hurt by them anymore, because they don't deal enough damage. So, you literally just let your characters get knocked out, revive one of them, and you win. It's so weird. I don't even know why that's an option, but it's really fascinating. And it's convenient for a speedrun because this is way faster than trying to knock out the enemies in one hit each time. Alrighty. Making sure the boy here has the spear equipped. And then we go ahead and fly away. Now, what you're supposed to do next is you go to the southern continent and defeat the watermelon boss. It's called Agrogopilan or something like that, but watermelon's easier to pronounce. Either way, what we do instead is we go to the Ice Palace, which we haven't cleared, and because we haven't cleared the Ice Palace, we can actually get a certain little flag activated here. Shout out to Crow who figured this one out, and we can effectively carry this flag, like a memory flag, here. So what this means is, right now, the game thinks we are still in the Ice Palace. What happens if you die, as in your entire party gets wiped out in the Ice Palace, is that the boy gets revived and you get thrown out the front door of the Ice Palace. So Santa is kind of nice. Instead of dying in the Ice Palace, you basically just get like a little... well, you get thrown out the front door, so it's not too bad if you die in there. However, the way you clear that memory flag is by either going into the Ice Country or completing the Ice Palace. We did neither of these things, so there's that. So, what I'm gonna do here is I'm intentionally going to die. Which, by the way, fun fact, there's no autosaves in this game, so if you game over, you game over in this game. However, because I activated this little flag, we now kind of half initiated the watermelon fight and half we didn't complete it because you're not supposed to get into that fight without being able to complete it afterwards. You cannot normally escape there. But, well, we can. So now, I'm gonna save here. And this gets even more complicated now. So we're gonna save here, and this is a very particular kind of save file right now. That save file, or more specifically that Flammy landing spot, does not exist in the PAL version. They fixed that. Because what happens if you land there next to the Frost Forest, Nico, and save, and then you try to load the save file normally, the game crashes. What happens is the game actually has no memory, as in it didn't save where you were in which location, so it doesn't have an idea where to put you. However, I can take advantage of this. If I do a soft reset by holding Start, Select L and R on my main controller, and hold that soft reset for a few seconds, the game does not wipe the entire memory clear, which means anywhere I am currently at, I can, as a matter of fact, just kind of save warp into that location with my current save file. So what I want to do is I want to load my save file and progress and characters and story plot point into the opening cutscene. Because the game has kind of like a little check when you are in there, it automatically teleports you over to Podos village. So, in here, just kind of, I'm gonna do it slow. Here, this is the cutscene I want to get into. So I'm holding Start, Select L and R, hold it for a little while longer. Then I'm going to go ahead and load the save file I just made. You will briefly see that initial area flash up and boom, we are here. And you might notice two of my characters are invisible. In fact, basically, normally the game during the cutscene hides your characters and it kind of plays out the cutscene, because your characters are hidden, you can't normally do things. In fact, it uses that in order to scroll things. Either way, what it does here now is I have an invisible character in my party, which has rather strange properties. Also, you remove that invisibility by, like, having the heal animation play, specifically. So, real quick, we started the watermelon fight and now we have a bugged out NPC here, which is very useful because what I'm gonna do, I'm just demonstrating this here, what I'm gonna do is, the invisible character here, I'm walking around with the sprite is over here, the sprite is over there. I can walk around and do the stuff normally with the sprite. However, if I press left and then interact with the sprite, the NPC is gonna interact with the sprite no matter where the sprite is. So what I can do is I can interact with that NPC, and while I'm interacting with it, I can literally walk through walls. While a text box is open, while I interact with any kind of form of event, I can walk through walls, thanks to having an invisible character in my party. That is really convenient, because instead of going through the entirety of the underground palace, we're going to go very, very conveniently just through the upper area here. For safety, I'm gonna use balloon here, because that werewolf can really mess you up. It's faster not to do this, but, well, it's a marathon run. Then we're gonna walk backwards through the wall some more. Through the wall some more. Hit this switch here a bunch of times. And then I'm going to warp back to the main entrance. The NPC that is bugged out is still there. Oops, wrong character. I can still walk through the walls, and we go into the next room. Hitting these switches in the previous room activates effectively the next section of this area here. And it allows me to effectively skip the entirety of the underground palace and also the boss fight with the fish thingy. Now there's a weird downside to this, where Hexus is a little bit bugged out right now. In fact, I have to hit Hexus right here. This is Hexus, which by the way is my favorite boss, which is kind of unique. I have to hit her with a spell. The reason why I have to do this is because right now I literally cannot hit her with a physical attack. It's impossible. So afterwards... Oh, I accidentally... Well, that's less than an idea. Or that's fine, I can multiply them. Alright, ooh, this is not good. I accidentally turned her into water magic Hexus, so she's gonna cast water magic spells all the time now. The reason why that's not good is because she has a lot more invulnerability frames. Beyond that, it's actually more or less the same thing. But yeah, I might have to hit her with a spell again in order to be able to hit her. Hey, no, it's fine. Sometimes Hexus bugs out again during the fight again, and I don't know why, it just happens. Also, she loves to spam spells when she transforms her into different elemental forms, but we're fine. Okay. This fight is supposed to go a bit different than what I did, but we kinda managed. It's okay. Either way, fun fact, Hexus has 5 different forms. Her neutral form, which she starts in, then you can turn her into a fire, ice, or... not wind form. Fire, ice, or... earth form. There's technically a wind form too, but it never happens. Also, we do the save warp in here again. We can, by the way, use the save file literally anywhere we want in order to just save warp into rooms. This actually saves us a little bit of time with the initial cutscene. The downside is we don't get to hear the awesome boss music. However, if I'm just walking... I didn't get it. If I'm just walking efficiently enough, I can, as a matter of fact, defeat or hit this guy as soon as I enter the arena. So, I'm trying to fix my charge attack here. This might work. And then try to hit it. Nope, it didn't work. I got the same charge attack again. Sorry, Sprite. The Sprite dying here is not that big of a deal. So, this guy here has a really strange AI. So, in short, what it's trying to do, it's basically casting wall on itself. And then, after it casts wall on itself, it tries to buff itself with speed up. But wall repels spells, which means he buffs me instead of, well, anything else. So, consequently, I get the speed up, which by the way, they don't do anything. Well, technically they do something, but practically they don't really do anything. Either way, he tries to buff himself, but because he never gets a buff, he always keeps trying to buff himself, because that's what he does. If he doesn't have a buff, he tries to give himself a buff, but because he gives himself wall first as a priority, he never does anything else. It's kind of ridiculous. Either way, after you clear the sunken continent, you're supposed to go into the Pure Lands. Also, I think I still have the second controller active, which means I have to fly with the upside down controller. Gonna be a little bit strange. I was supposed to disable it, but the sprite was kinda dead and that kinda threw me off a little. Alright, now, because this is a marathon, we just play this safe, let's put it this way, and I'm gonna briefly go ahead and land in Pandora, where we're gonna do a little safety save here. This way I can also fix some character misalignment, well, controller thingies. So here, save, yes please. And here we go. Alrighty, now, normally we're supposed to go to Pure Lands now, but as you may have guessed by my wording, we're not gonna do that. So, what are we gonna do? So, fun fact, this screen here is a huge screen that only ever has 2 enemies at any given point. And the reason why is this little thing here, this little jumpy thing that normally hops you up onto the next ledge, is always loaded, so it actually always occupies 1 enemy slot. So what I'm doing here is I'm unleashing a charge attack with the sprite. And that charge attack carries the sprite forward after I call Flammy with the Flammy drum, and consequently I initiated the event for us to jump up onto this little ledge. And I'm going to carry that event over to the mana barrier here. You're not supposed to land here. You're supposed to go to the Pure Lands, but I quite literally jump over the barrier that normally prevents us from landing here, and we can in fact go into the final area of the game now. Welcome to the Mana Fortress. I hope you enjoy your stay. The music is nice, but the enemies are scary. With our current set of equipment, we are very, very easily going to straight up die, let's put it this way. Because of this, it's actually more efficient for us to... wait. Yeah, this works. It doesn't work. I need to wait a little bit. I messed this up. This is fine. Right, because of this, it's actually more efficient for us to go straight through the wall here. This is actually not a particularly big skip, and it doesn't save particularly much time, but it's significantly safer to do it this way, honestly. So, basically, I'm using items, then I'm hitting the rope pull and let my characters keep running through areas that they're not supposed to. That is kind of the short version. So here, I'm actually gonna initiate the overcharge attack, because ranged weapons determine how far they fly based on which charge level they have. The boy is going to throw the boomerang pretty far, so it hits the rope pole on the right side, and I will be able to run the sprite through the wall as well, and we are through here. The boy is going to equip the sword, and then switch over the weapon to the sprite, while we wait for the lady to, well, complete healing animation. And through here we go. Alright, I'm just gonna play it safe. You can't technically just hit the crab, or, well, try to hit the crab, as it is throwing the boomerang, but if you do get hit, the boy will survive, but both the sprite and the lady will get one-shot by that boomerang attack. Kind of unpleasant. Alrighty, and now, need to select the sprite here, before we go in, and welcome to the Buffy fight. Let's get lucky. Ooh, we do get lucky. Let's see whether I remember where to position the sprite. I think it's around here. Let's hope it's right, because otherwise this might be awkward. Ooh, it actually worked. Come on. Ah, I didn't get it. I got the wrong charge attack here, so this is gonna be pretty awkward. Let's see. Ah, this is still okay. It's not as efficient, but this is basically the old strategy that we used. Kind of like with Buffy. If the vampire, or it's... excuse me, kind of like the other vampire type of deal. As long as this boss here is flying around, we cannot hit it. So if it is on the ground, we want to keep it on the ground as long as possible. Unfortunately, it decided to fly away. Now I need to get lucky that it jumps back around again. Ooh. Please stay. No! Come back! Oh. I opened up the menu in order to restart the charge immediately. I think it's one more hit. So I'm positioning the sprite in a way where Buffy here will try to hit the sprite, and I went the wrong way. And I use slow down, and that's a miss. That's unfortunate if you miss right there, because I'm pretty sure it's one more hit to defeat this guy. Okay, so here's the thing. I actually literally couldn't hit Buffy. Even if Buffy continued jumping around, I couldn't hit Buffy there, because it was just casting a spell And consequently this means that Buffy was actually completely invulnerable for the time being, while it was still jumping around right there. Okay, also this little bat here will kill the sprite, but I'm gonna use a barrel. You're invulnerable to any form of physical damage while you have a barrel equipped, so that's kind of convenient. Please calm down. It's actually possible for Buffy to heal itself so much with energy absorb that you need an additional hit or two. I have, in fact, spent 5 to 6 minutes on this fight alone. Well, 5 to 6 minutes more than the optimal possible fight, just because Buffy decided to keep flying around. That could happen. Alrighty. Let's go through the second section of the Mana Fortress, and this does not get any less scary, because again, we have effectively almost no equipment or defense for this part of the game. Enemies will kill us if I am not careful enough, and this works out pretty well, really good. Here I'm intentionally spawning these blue guys, the tsunamis. I let them split into 3, that means no other enemies can spawn, as you may already know. And we can just go through here. Alrighty, and then we are already at the next boss. One of the things I absolutely love about speedrunning this game is it's effectively a boss rush. It's like you are at one boss, then you immediately get to the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. It's actually really, really awesome. Boss fights have always been my favorite thing about this game, so this is, well, no different. So, the way Dread Slime works, by the way, is the Dread Slime always targets the character that is the furthest away from the core. So, right now, it's basically going to be switching between the sprite and the lady very, very frequently, like just up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, because the sprite and the lady are the furthest away from the core. And the boy can just keep sitting there and hit it. I actually need to wait here just a little bit before I attack with the boy, because right now I couldn't actually hit the core because it was invulnerable from casting Acid Rain. Not just your character get invulnerabilities while casting spells, bosses do too. However, depending on boss, sometimes they get invulnerabilities before they cast a spell, after they cast a spell, long before, for a long time, I have no idea. There's no indication for that. Also, another thing I'm gonna do here is I'm waiting here briefly, then I'm actually going to open up a full screen menu, and this allows me to skip the level up text boxes there that would be happening, because we are low level. Dread Slime gives a really good amount of experience, and that's a lot of levels we would gain, and we skip these level up text boxes by opening up a full screen menu. Now, worth noting, this is one of the scariest parts about the run here. Who spawned? Oh no. Yeah, I figured that would happen. I have only one barrel remaining. Boy still alive, lady not. We're mostly fine. Don't get hit, sprite, thank you. For some reason, these Master Ninjas, if they do hit you, they can actually one-shot a fully leveled character with best equipment, like a maximum level, if they critically hit. But often they just don't hit you. It's kind of fascinating. Alright, we're fine here. There's gonna be a ninja here. I need to wait. Alright, it's gonna dive. Most of the time, Master Ninjas just cast spells and you're perfectly fine. Most of the time. Hold down right into this room. And I think I spawned yeah, I spawned that guy. I heard him. Wait, let's go. We're fine for now. If you spawn enemies in this room, it's super awkward to try and navigate around them. Down right into this room. Down right into this room, switch to the... Oh, that's not good. I did not mean to spawn the tsunami. That's not good at all. Okay, the boy would die from this, so... I'm gonna heal him and use this opportunity to revive the sprite. The sprite is the one that has the sword currently, and we need the sword right here. In order to open up the passage. Please don't hit me, that's rude. How many cups of wishes do we have? 1! Oh. Oh, that's lovely. I should have replenished them earlier. I can actually still use the equipment trashing glitch, but only if I have at least 2 cups of wishes. So I need to make sure that no character dies, because otherwise I'm in big trouble. Alrighty, welcome to the second to last boss. This is the Dark Lich. Dark Lich has 6666 HP. Not quite double compared to the previous boss, but it's still a lot of HP that we have to churn through. It also has a decent amount of defense, which, by the way, defense and damage calculation is very simple. You basically just figure out how much damage do I deal. 999? Alright, 999 minus whatever the enemies has in defense, so like minus 150. And that's the damage you get, give or take a few points. So, because we always deal 999 damage, since that's the damage cap, that's almost as much damage as we do. The only way we can actually deal more damage than past the defense and actually get the true 999 value is via critical hits. So, we usually don't get that. Alrighty, and let's try to not die. I'm gonna actually play this a bit safer than usual, because I need to see which character gets targeted by his attacks and spells. I hope he doesn't use Petrify Beam, because I always have trouble trying to navigate this around this. Okay, this is not good. Oh no. I don't have any way to revive anymore. This could be bad. Okay, this is fine. The spider is still going to tank. I just need to wait with the boy here. Who's gonna get hit? Alright. I just need to have the boy throw the items at this point. And I cannot attack while I... Oh, I didn't keep my charge attack. That's really not good. Okay, at least I hit him. 7, this is fine for now. We need to start recharging up. Sleep gas. Alright. Sprite will get hit, but we have a barrel for this. Once again, barrels completely deny all physical attacks, and what isn't specifically a spell that you can cast as a player is considered a physical attack. He always alternates between spell and physical attack, so the barrel was always going to protect the sprite here. Also, he usually targets the character that is the closest. And fun fact, I actually don't even have to necessarily do anything during this attack, because it doesn't kill the sprite, but it's more efficient for me to, well, do anything anyways. Could you please stop casting all the time? I would appreciate that. I need to keep my charge attack, otherwise we are in trouble here. So I can't attack just willy-nilly. Okay. The reason why Petrify Beam and Freeze Beam are so bad is because they instantly kill you. Like, there's no coming back. It's not like the other damage sources where I can just deny the damage. Dispel Magic is perfect. Come on. And now he is diving down. Well, I'll still go for it. I don't have a barrel, so I shouldn't. You could try to do the headbang, so to speak. But it's real scary. This one should be a charge. Okay, we got it. The reason why this is really scary is because he uses physical attacks at this point, where, kind of like the Petrify and Freeze Beam, if you get hit by an attack that kills you and applies a status effect, you're instantly a ghost. There would have been no coming back from that. Oh, that was probably the scariest marathon run I had to date. And it's still not necessarily over yet. I actually need to complete the final fight without getting knocked out here. Alright, so if you thought this was all the glitches we had so far, there's gonna be one last one, actually 1.5 if you will. So first of all, When you activate the Mana Yin and Yang spells, which actually is the German name for these, it's I think just called Mana spell in the English version here. Either way, if you do this, there's actually like a 20-second cutscene when you activate the Mana Sword for the first time. So I'm gonna cast the spell here with the lady, and I'm gonna start casting the spell with the sprite. And I'm gonna have the lady just walk into the warp as the sprite finishes their spell. So this means that we actually now have activated the Mana Sword. So you might be wondering, wait, do you need the Mana Sword to defeat the Mana Beast? And the answer is actually no, you do not. But the reason why we want the Mana Sword anyways is because it has a 100% chance to hit. So up until now, at this point, at this level, we have like a 70% chance to hit against bosses. Other than that, we may just miss. The Mana Sword has always a 100% chance to hit. So this is why we want to activate the Mana Sword. But unlike every other like Saber enchant, the Mana Sword is a temporary one, and it runs out after a short amount of time, especially since our Dryad spell level is 0. However, we can kind of circumvent this by casting another spell on top of the Dryad spell here, or more specifically on top of the Mana Sword. So normally you can also not exchange the Mana Sword, and despite having the Mana Sword, it actually deals right now basically no damage. I have to still overcharge the sword in order to be able to deal any damage whatsoever. So, I'm going to do this now. I have Frost Saber on the Mana Sword, and now the sprite has the Mana Sword. Kinda little fun fact. And here, I'm just gonna try and get the correct charge attack. Nice, I got it. And here we go. This is kind of all there was. Initially, the Mana Beast will breathe fire, and thankfully it is really easy to time these spells, so you completely deny the damage from the Mana Beast attacks. If it wasn't, well, we would be potentially in a lot of trouble here. I could try and go for the one cycle here, but I think it's just more important for me to focus on knocking this out. Mana Beast has 9990 HP, which means I need to hit it about 20 times unless I get a bunch of critical hits, which count for 2 attacks in order to defeat this thing. If I were to use Acid Storm, this is the one spell that helps in this fight, which reduces the Mana Beast's defense by 20% for a short amount of time. But other than that, you technically can get super lucky and get like 5 critical hits or something like that to try and defeat the Mana Beast. Worth noting that I absolutely don't want the lady to die here, because we actually do have Dryad spells now, which means if somebody does die, we could technically use Revivify. Despite us never having acquired a Mana Magic or Dryad Magic, we do have it available in this fight here specifically, because we did unlock the Mana Sword spells. Alrighty, the Mana Beast goes away. We're gonna cast a spell to not get hit by the sideways attack, because we will die if we get hit. Oh, alrighty. I think we should be mostly fine as long as I don't really mess up something. I could try to do, well, some fancy stuff here, where there's actually a weird glitch. If you open up a full screen menu just as the Mana Beast is flying in before it appears like full size on screen, it gets really scrambled and weird. But I don't exactly remember the timing, and without any backup cups of wishes, I'd rather not try. Alrighty. And real quick, since we are here about at the end, how long do we have until the next run? Are we going to watch 7.5 minutes of credits, or is it gonna be over sooner than that? Because... oh boy. That was a scary Thanatos fight. We just won. And everybody, thank you so much for meeting that handcam incentive. It is always a pleasure for me to just try and show off how I handle 2 controllers, how it works out, and maybe you're intrigued enough to try it out yourself. It looks much fancier and complicated than it actually is. I use an upside down controller. Some people use like back-to-back controllers, other people just have them on the table and use them like keyboards. You can do this any place, any way you want, and it's surprisingly easy to do once you know what you're doing. the burden of knowledge is kind of decent in this though. Either way, that's that. Thank you everybody. For the sprite in chat, indeed. Yeah. When I was a kid, I absolutely loved playing Seeker of Mana, but I was so upset at the ending that the sprite was missing in the end, after we've gone all through all that trouble and the adventure together, that of all the times I played this game, of the hundreds of hours I spent, I only beat the game once when I was a kid. It wasn't until later where, well, I felt like I could appreciate a good, not perfectly happy ending. Alrighty, I don't know how or whether we're going to immediately move to the next game, but this was it from me for today. If you'd like to know the moon phase, because it's random which moon phase you get, full moon, crescent, or, well, half moon, well, I can tell you in chat later, but thank you everybody for watching, for listening and for lurking. I hope you enjoyed the remainder of the Speed Gaming Marathon. Once again, as a reminder, this is a marathon for No Kid Hungry, a charity that you may want to look into, and if you have a little bit to spare, you may also want to donate towards the end of this. Thank you so much everybody, and take care.